Disabled Millionaire's shocking response to Beggar's plea, you won't believe what happens next. In the bustling heart of the city, a man in a wheelchair brushed past the glittering storefronts, his presence commanding attention like a storm cloud on a sunny day. Harold Minton, a disabled millionaire, was no stranger to wealth or controversy. Word had it that he amassed his fortune through a tech startup that revolutionized accessibility for the disabled. Yet, behind his successful facade was a world of pain and loneliness that never seemed to fade. When he wheeled to the corner of 5th and Main, he had no idea today would change everything. A desperate cry pierced the air. Help! Please! A beggar, ragged and thin, with wild hair standing on end, stumbled toward Harold. His eyes, wide and frantic as if they were portals into a harrowing tale, held a glimpse of desperation that could grip anyone's heart. The surrounding crowd paused, eyes flicking between Harold and the man, a mix of fear, disbelief, and a frantic need for drama. The air grew thick with tension. What would the millionaire do? Harold's chest ached as he locked eyes with the beggar. The sight of this man clothed in dirt and desperation hit him like a punch to the gut. It whispered to some unseen part of him, igniting a mix of emotions. Could he really turn his back? The crowd leaned in closer, breaths held in anticipation, waiting for the moment that would redefine their understanding of charity and obligation. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. With the world watching, Harold gripped his wheels, a bead of sweat forming at his brow. What if he reached into his pocket? Could he do something as simple as share a few dollars? But a gnawing voice inside whispered doubts. Would it truly make a difference? Silence punctuated the intensity, broken only by the distant sirens weaving through the city like a bad omen. The beggar's eyes, now slightly confused, darted around as if sensing a shift in his surroundings. And then, as if the universe conspired in that very moment, Harold took a slow breath, contemplating the weight of choice, his palms damp against the wheels. Just when the crowd thought they witnessed the unfolding of ordinary generosity, something extraordinary happened. With a sudden jolt, he leaned forward, his heart racing like a runaway train. What would he say? What actions would define him in this crucial moment? Would he be just another wealthy figure, desensitized to the suffering around him? The crowd leaned in closer, hearts pounding, pulses racing. They were about to witness something that would either break their faith in humanity or restore it in the most astonishing way. Harold swallowed hard, the weight of the moment settling on his chest like a heavy blanket. The crowd's anticipation crackled in the air. His mind raced, thoughts colliding like a storm. What if he said the wrong thing? What if his act of kindness was just a fleeting emotional impulse that wouldn't change anything? Please, sir, I'm begging you. The beggar's voice trembled, raw and genuine, a pitiful plea that burrowed deeper into Harold's heart. The man's eyes glimmered with hope, fragile like a flame flickering in the wind. Harold could see the fear of desperation lurking there, a reflection of pain he felt within himself. It was then that he realized this wasn't just about money, it was about dignity. Wait! Harold called out, his voice fracturing as he unexpectedly shouted over the crowd. Startled faces turned towards him, brows knitting together in confusion. What was he doing? As if embracing an unseen force, he took a deep breath. I can't just give you cash, he said, his tone softer now, more resolute. What you need is more than that. You deserve dignity. He glanced at the crowd, then back to the beggar, who was now staring at him with wide eyes, caught off guard. From somewhere within, a fire ignited. I can help you get back on your feet. I have connections, programs that can assist. A job, a place to live. Each promise hung in the air, thick with possibility. His heart raced even faster. Could he really make such a claim? Gasps erupted from the crowd. Eyebrows shot up, whispers tumbled like leaves in the wind. Harold's own mind battled with disbelief. Who was he to think he could change this man's life? Yet, the beggar stepped closer, searching Harold's face for sincerity. Was it real? I don't want a handout, the beggar stammered, his voice barely above a whisper, trembling with uncertainty. I just want hope. Then let me give you that hope, Harold responded, conviction flooding his voice. Let us work together. I'll help you find a way to stand again, for real. The crowd held its collective breath, the tension so thick it could be sliced with a knife. In this moment, Harold transformed from a wealthy figure into something more, a beacon of change and possibility. The beggar's expression melted from skepticism to cautious hope. A new realization dawned on the onlookers, this wasn't merely a charity case unfolding. They witnessed two lives intertwining, a rich man, ironically living in his own prison of isolation, offering a lifeline to a man trapped by circumstance. An awakening sparked within the audience, shaking their foundations of objection and sorrow, but as the crowd began to stir with murmurs of approval and disbelief, an angry voice cut through the air. You think this is the answer? You can't fix the world with a few promises. The naysayer's words echoed with the finality of a thunderclap, biting into the fragile hope that had been carefully woven. Harold's heart sank as the crowd's energy plummeted once again, doubt creeping back into their expressions. Suddenly, the tension thickened just like before. The escalating emotions hung, teetering on the edge between confidence and despair. In that pause, Harold realized he stood at a crossroads, not just for the beggar but for himself too. Could he really be the change? Or would this moment unravel, snapping back into despair, leaving them both in the daunting shadows of reality? The air crackling, he looked from the crowd to the beggar, uncertainty swirling around them like smoke. What would he do next? And more importantly, what could it mean for both their futures? Harold felt the weight of the crowd's stare, 1,000 eyes boring into him, dissecting every word, every movement. The silence was oppressive, filled with unspoken judgments and expectation. Could he endure this? Doubt clawed at him, a vicious beast lurking just below the surface. The beggar's expression shifted, uncertainty clouding his previously hopeful gaze. Hope? He asked, voice shaking. Is that all I get? You can't just throw words at my problems. It stung. Those words were a mirror reflecting Harold's own fears. He stepped closer, lowering himself to the beggar's level, striving to connect. No, it's more, much more. I want to walk this path with you. But I can't carry you. A murmur rippled through the crowd, as if awakening from a trance. They were witnessing vulnerability, not just from the beggar but from Harold too. Could he admit his own weakness? He was offering help, yet he so desperately needed it himself. The naysayer continued to voice dissent, relishing in the chaos. He's just a rich man playing savior. Empty words. You think a pat on the back will change anything? Look around you. The crowd shifted, pulling back like the tide, unease spreading among them. Harold felt their dedication waver, and his heart raced with panic. Wait! He shouted, desperation creeping back into his voice. I'm not looking to save anyone. This isn't a game. It's real life with real stakes. The beggar, now breathing hard, narrowed his eyes. Are you saying you'll actually help me? Or just tell me what I want to hear? I'm ready to do whatever it takes, Harold insisted, each word weighed with desperation. Meet me tomorrow, and I promise to show you those connections. You'll see that there's a light at the end of this tunnel. His heart pounded. Would the beggar take this leap of faith? The atmosphere was electric, a live wire sizzling between hope and disbelief. The beggar's brow furrowed, his instincts battling caution, and Harold caught a flicker of something. Doubt? Resolve? Just then, the naysayers stepped closer, fanning the flames of discontent. You're fooling yourself if you think one meeting will make a difference. People like you don't understand what it's like. You can't grasp the pain. For a moment, silence returned. Eyes flicked between the two men, the gathering storm within the crowd mirrored in their expressions. Hope wrestled with skepticism. The beggar took a step back, hands trembling. He searched Harold's gaze. Show me then, if you truly believe. But don't think for a second I'll go quietly if you mess this up. Harold's chest tightened, understanding igniting within him. What had he been afraid of? This moment held everything: the chance to continue his own redemption, to share in the burden of someone else's reality. He nodded, firm. I can do this. I won't let you down. The crowd gasped, the tension thickening even more, barely able to hold their breath. Suddenly, a woman in the throng shouted, "What if he's just using you for publicity?" Her words sliced through the air, sharp and unforgiving. Unease rippled through the onlookers, eyebrows knitting together. Harold felt the stakes rising higher. Was this really about him helping the beggar, or was it a chance for him to find meaning in the noise of his wealth? Are you doing this for you or him? The woman challenged, locking eyes with him. The question hung heavy in the air, unanswered, stirring with each pulsating heartbeat. It rattled his core. Could he navigate this minefield of judgment and doubt? Both fate and redemption loomed just beyond his reach. Uncertainty spiraled in his gut, but there was a raw ember of courage igniting, urging him onward. What would happen if he failed? What if hope slipped through their fingers like water? As tension simmered, Harold realized this wasn't just a chance for the beggar, it was his. The moment had come, but would it lead to construction or destruction? And as the crowd leaned in, ready to witness what would unfold, Harold faced a question that twisted in the depths of his soul: was he truly prepared for the weight of his promises? The crowd held its breath, a living organism pulsing with the tension of unyielding anticipation. The murmur of doubt lingered like a thick fog, wrapped around Harold. For me or him, he whispered to himself, repeating the woman's words. It was a question he couldn't shake, a weight pressing him down. I'll be there, the beggar finally replied, his voice firm yet wavering. But don't think I'll trust you blindly. Prove it. With that declaration, he turned and disappeared into the shadows, leaving Harold standing alone under the unforgiving glare of curious stares. As the crowd began to disperse, whispers followed him like ghosts. What a joke, snickered a guy in the corner, shaking his head. Others echoed his sentiment, shuffling away with a mix of apathy and amusement. Harold stood frozen, rooted to the spot, grappling with the reality of what he had just pledged. Prove it. The echo drummed in his ears, gnawing at his determination. He had talked a big game, but action was needed now. A voice inside him cried out to retreat, to hide behind the walls of his wealth, but he pressed forward, battling his inner chaos. The feeling nagged: what if he fell short? He raked a hand through his hair, uncertain of his next move. What do I even do? The words escaped him, an admission into the void, a plea for guidance. Suddenly, a familiar face appeared in front of him. Hey, Harold. It was Lisa, an old friend, her voice bright but edged with caution. I heard what happened. You really think that'll work? I have to try, he replied, his gaze unwavering. I need to show that I can help, to not just share empty words. She raised an eyebrow, concern knitting her brows. Just be careful. You know how people talk. They'll twist this any way they can. Like they're doing now. He shot back, gesturing towards the receding crowd. I can't let that stop me. I owe it to myself. Lisa pursed her lips, clearly weighing how to react. The world outside their conversation continued, but she fixated on him as if searching for hidden truths. Look, Harold, she said, leaning closer, her voice lowering. I get that you want to be genuine, but just know if you mess this up it'll haunt you. Not just them. You. The warning settled in his chest like a stone. Could he really transform tomorrow from mere words into reality? Don't hold your breath for some fairy tale ending, she whispered, then turned to leave. Her last glance held a mix of sympathy and doubt, lingering like a shadow. With each passing moment, Harold felt adrenaline flood his system. The uncertainty threatened to overwhelm him. He needed a plan. He pulled out his phone, heart racing, mind spinning. As the screen lit up, he typed out a message to an old mentor, someone who had helped guide him through his startup ventures. "I need help," he texted quickly. "Meet me ASAP. It's urgent." He sent it out into the ether, already regretting the moment he had typed it. What kind of help could he even ask for? What could bring real change? He slid the phone back into his pocket, a churning mix of fear and excitement brewing. The sun dipped lower, casting a golden hue across the city. Harold gazed at the fading light, a stillness creeping in at the edges of his mind. Time was running out. He had no idea what tomorrow would truly bring, only that he stood on the brink of something transformative. Uncertainty clenched tight around his gut, an unyielding reminder that hope could just as easily be a cruel trick. And then it hit him, where exactly was this journey leading? As doubt washed over him, he braced himself for the fallout. The crowd might see him as a fraud, but within that chaos lay the potential for something monumental. Somewhere distant, a dog barked, the echo breaking through his thoughts. He started down the street, feet moving despite the noise in his head. But each step felt heavier, as if the shadows were pulling him back, clawing at his resolve, an insistent reminder of the risks taken when one dared to hope in a world often devoid of kindness. What awaited him when tomorrow finally arrived? Would he shine or crumble under the weight of expectation? The sun vanished below the horizon, and Harold took a deep breath, staring into the darkening sky. The answer hovered just out of reach, like a dim light flickering through a storm. And as uncertainty loomed ahead, he couldn't shake the gnawing question: what would happen if the world saw him for who he truly was? Harold's phone buzzed, breaking through the clamor of his thoughts. His mentor had replied. "Meet me at the old diner in an hour." A wave of relief washed over him, muted only by the undercurrent of anxiety that coursed through his veins. He glanced at the now empty street, the last rays of sunlight vanishing. The diner was a relic from a simpler time, chrome accents glinting like polished memories against the backdrop of a rapidly changing world. As he walked, the cool air sharpened his senses, a stark contrast to the turmoil swirling inside. The faces around him felt like a blurred collage, each one a whispered judgment, a reminder of the stakes he had committed himself to. Harold pushed through the door and was greeted by the warm aroma of coffee and frying bacon. There was something comforting about it, yet an invisible weight squatted on his chest. He spotted his mentor, Tom, in a booth near the back, already sipping a cup. "Harold," Tom greeted with a nod, his brows knitting together as he noted the tension in Harold's demeanor. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "It's more like I'm chasing one," Harold jokingly replied, but his smile faltered before it could take root. Tom studied him carefully, his ice blue eyes piercing through the mask of bravado. "What's going on?" "It all comes down to this beggar, really," Harold started, his voice low. He explained the encounter, emphasizing the "to prove it" challenge, feeling exposed as he laid bare his vulnerability. Tom listened attentively. "And what exactly do you plan to prove?" "Something real," Harold replied, the words firming. "I can't just be another rich guy who sits back and watches. I want to actually help." "You can't save the world, Harold. People like that beggar, they're on a different path. You have to be realistic. You could end up getting burned," Tom warned, concern etched into his features. This hit Harold harder than he expected. The very idea of retreating felt like a betrayal, not just to the beggar, but to the promise he had made to himself, to change. "And what if I can't? What if I just end up proving them right?" He blurted, frustration bubbling to the surface. His voice dropped with intensity. "What if I fail?" "Then you learn from it and keep going," Tom said. "But remember, it's not your responsibility to solve every problem. Choose your battles wisely." Harold stared into his coffee, swirling the liquid absent-mindedly, wrestling between optimism and despair. He wanted to envision success, to see a path illuminated ahead. But self-doubt clawed its way back in, gnashing its teeth at any flicker of hope. Just as he was about to voice his frustration, the door swung open with a creak that seemed to echo in the diner. A figure stepped in, half hidden in the shadows. Harold's heart raced at the unmistakable sight of the beggar from earlier, his frame lean and tired, eyes darting around the room. "Speak of the devil," Tom murmured, leaning back, curious. The beggar's gaze locked onto Harold's, and something primal flickered between them. The crowd, the whispers, the laughter, it all faded. This moment, this connection, bore a weight of truth that could not be ignored. "Here to see if I messed up?" the beggar asked, a hint of humor masking his exhaustion. "No," Harold said slowly, his heart pounding. "I'm here to figure out how we can actually make a difference." The beggar leaned against the counter, the fluorescent lights casting harsh shadows across his face, revealing a mix of desperation and determination. "You know something?" he said, his voice steady. "Show me your heart, and I'll show you the way." The words hung in the air, pregnant with possibility. The diner buzzed around them, but all Harold could hear was the challenge reverberating in his mind. Was this his moment? Was there truly a path forward? With adrenaline coursing through his veins, Harold nodded, a decision forming within him. But seconds later, uncertainty began to creep back in, flinging doubt into the warmth of the moment. What exactly lay ahead of him? Would the beggar truly lead him to something worthwhile, or was this all just a mirage in the long road of struggle? As the beggars stepped closer to Harold, their collective potential crackled in the air, electrifying and terrifying. The world outside the diner blurred into insignificance as they faced an uncertain path together, daring to grasp the unknown, and as night fell, the weight of their choices settled in, leading Harold to wonder, was he ready to confront the shadows of his own heart? The beggars stepped into the light, and Harold could see the layers of grime on his skin, the intense eyes that had seen more pain than most could imagine. The energy in the diner shifted, diners momentarily pausing to catch the unfolding drama. There was an electrical charge in the air, thick with curiosity and maybe a hint of judgment. "What's your name?" Harold asked, trying to cut through the tension. "Vince," he said, his voice gravelly but steady. "And no fancy conversation, just tell me what you got." The diner faded away, though he could still see the quiet glances from the other tables, people fascinated, people unsettled. "I want to help, Vince. But I need to know how." "Help ain't just money, kid." Vince's tone held a sharp edge. "If you think throwing cash at me will fix things, you're no better than the rest. I've had my fill of charity that comes with strings attached." "I'm not just about handouts," Harold interjected, feeling the heat of Vince's words press against his chest. "I want to do something meaningful." Vince studied him, a flicker of something like hope in his eyes. "Meaningful, huh? It's easy to talk a good game when you've got more than you need. You got skin in the game. What do you need?" Harold asked, desperation creeping into his voice. Vince stepped closer, his presence overwhelming. "Take me to the shelter tonight. I'll show you what I mean. But only if you can handle it." Harold exchanged a quick glance with Tom, seeking encouragement, but Tom's expression was clouded. The older man's face tightened, lips pressed together as if he was trying to keep unspoken words from spilling out. The weight of the choice loomed over him, a decision that could lead to either growth or disaster. "Fine. Let us go," Harold said, his pulse quickening. He stood up, ready to face whatever reality Vince had to offer. But as they moved toward the door, a shout erupted from behind them. "Are you out of your damn mind?" a diner patron yelled, their voice slicing through the air like a knife. Heads turned, the atmosphere thickening with disbelief. "That's just a beggar." A woman chimed in, as if the words were a shield against the unknown. "You're putting yourself in danger." Harold's heart raced, his steps faltering for a moment as doubt crashed over him like a wave. Why was he doing this? Was he really prepared to step into the shadows of someone else's life, to be judged and second-guessed by anyone who happened to notice? Forget them. We'll show them, Vince hissed, urgency lacing his words. There was a fire in his eyes, a challenge that pierced through Harold's hesitations. Don't let fear dictate your choices. So many eyes watched him, and it felt like the entire diner had turned into a courtroom, judging his every move. But with Vince's unwavering stare urging him forward, Harold felt a swell of resolve. Let us go, he said again, this time louder and steadier. They stepped outside, the night air chilling against Harold's skin as he faced the tangled mystery ahead of him. As they walked into the dark, he could feel every heartbeat, every whisper of doubt, but also a spark of hope igniting within. They turned a corner, and right then, Harold's phone buzzed again, a message from someone named Jessica. You're making a mistake. Don't go. Trust me. The warning flashed in front of him like a stop sign against the backdrop of chaos swirling in his mind. Who was this Jessica to tell him what he could or couldn't he do? Are you coming? Vince asked impatiently, the urgency of the moment crashing down around him. Harold hesitated, his heart pounding in tandem with his growing fear. Was it too late to turn back? Or was that fear exactly what he needed to confront? Just then, the streetlights flickered, and darkness seemed to creep closer as if the night itself was waiting to swallow him whole. With one last glance back, Harold felt the weight of the world heavy on his shoulders. Would he be brave enough to step forward, or would he let the fears pull him back into the shadows? The answer lurked closer than he realized. He was on the brink of something monumental, and it was terrifying. But only by delving deeper into the unknown could he truly confront the shadows of his own heart. What awaited him on this journey? The streets around them echoed with an eerie emptiness, as if the world had held its breath. Harold's heart thudded in his chest, the beat louder than the soft rustle of leaves above. He glimpsed up at the sky, a swirling blanket of darkness dotted with stars. How was he so sure he was ready for what lay beyond those dying streetlights? Vince led the way, his silhouette merging with the darkened corners of the night. With each step, Harold's phone buzzed again. He glanced down, a new message from Jessica, words pulsating like an alarm. You don't know what he's capable of. Get out now. Who is Jessica? Vince asked, glancing back at Harold, his tone less demanding, more curious. Just a friend, Harold stammered, feeling a cold trickle of sweat slide down his back. She doesn't want me to go with you. Good for her. Vince smirked, then faced forward again. She doesn't know what you need. What did Harold need? He felt drawn to Vince, yet wariness gnawed at him, a hereditary instinct passed down through generations. The warning lights flashed in his mind. As they neared the shelter, the ambience shifted from uneasy silence to rising tension. Shadows flitted around them, and they passed the flickering neon sign of the shelter, an island of color in the bleakness. A creeping fear crawled up Harold's spine. What's really going on here? He asked, trying to contain the tremor in his voice. What are you going to show me? Vince stopped abruptly, turning to face Harold, eyes ablaze with intensity. The truth. The hidden ugliness. You've been sheltered from it all your life, haven't you? This night will change everything. Change it how? Harold could feel the ground shift beneath him. Let us find out, Vince replied cryptically. With a swift movement, he pushed open the shelter door, the metal creaking ominously like a warning. Inside, the atmosphere was a mix of despair and fleeting hope. Veiled figures huddled in corners, faces drawn and weary. The stark fluorescent lights illuminated a world that was both real and unreal. Pain and resilience intertwined, the scent of sweat and worn fabric filled his nostrils. A man in the corner mumbled to himself, eyes vacant. A group of women shared muted laughter, their joy dangling fragile in the air. This was no ordinary shelter, it was a cauldron of life, chaos, and struggle. Vince stepped forward, gesturing toward the gathering. This is where your help is needed. Not with money, but with understanding. Harold's pulse quickened. What do you mean? They won't trust you until they know you're just as lost as they are, Vince replied, voice low. You need to see their pain. Feel it. Only then will they open up. An unsettling shiver slipped through Harold. Could he really bear the weight of their struggles? Just as he was finding his footing, a deafening crash echoed through the room. All heads turned to the entrance where a figure stormed in wild-eyed and chaotic, looking like a hurricane unleashed. What are you doing here? The figure screamed, voice hoarse and crackling like broken glass. Harold's heart raced as the tension snapped like a taut wire. Was this what Vince meant by unveiling the truth? The shelter had morphed into a ticking time bomb, and he was right in the middle. Just then, a desperate plea reached his ears, help me. Harold felt the world tilt. There was a palpable desperation in the room, a call to action that coursed through him like electricity. But he was not ready for the brutal reality that was rising before him. As the chaos reached a fever pitch, he looked to Vince for guidance, his throat dry, thoughts scattering like leaves in the wind. Would he rise to the challenge or drown in the tide? When Vince turned to him, a knowing light in his eyes, Harold understood he was standing on the precipice of a choice, one that could shatter his fragile understanding of compassion and humanity. And then it dawned on him, what if confronting this turmoil meant revealing more about himself than he had ever wanted to? With all eyes on him in that charged moment, Harold felt the weight of the impending storm. Could he navigate this uncharted territory, or would he be swept away? The answer seemed to pulse through the air, tantalizingly close yet just out of reach. What awaited him in the shadows of the shelter, and would it change him forever? The chaotic atmosphere intensified, a whirlwind of emotions filling the shelter like a toxic fog. Harold felt the heat of each gaze upon him, the weight of their expectations crashing into him like a tidal wave. Vince had said they needed understanding, but how could he grasp such depths when he barely understood his own heart? Help me. The voice rang out again, trembling and raw, a broken record in a room glued together by fraying nerves. Harold's gaze snapped to the source, a woman crouched against the far wall, her hands gripping a frayed blanket. Her eyes, wide and pleading, glistened under the harsh lights. Somebody do something. She screamed, a woman trapped in the grips of desperation. Just as he edged forward, the wild figure who entered, a man with unkempt hair and clothes that hung off him like discarded rags, advanced with a terrifying fury, eyes darting wildly. Get out. You don't belong here. You can't fix this. The room froze. Time itself seemed to hold its breath, every heart pounding as the storm brewed. Harold's mind raced. Was that true? Did he really have the power to change anything? Vince stepped close to him, voice low and steady. This is it, Harold. You either step into the fire or walk away and stay in your safe little bubble. Make your choice. The weight of his words sunk in deep. Harold hesitated, mind swirling. What if I can't handle it? What if you can? Vince challenged, his eyes piercing, as if digging into the very essence of who Harold was. He opened his mouth to respond when the wild-eyed man suddenly lunged forward, grabbing the woman's arm. Stop using the weak. You'll just get burned. The shelter erupted into chaos. The crowd began shouting, voices blending into a cacophony of panic and fear. Harold's heart raced, blood pounding in his ears. Was there a part of him that wanted to run? To escape back into the safe world he knew? In that moment, everything crystallized for Harold. He had to dig deeper. He had to confront whatever fear was holding him back. Let her go. Harold shouted, stepping forward, voice suddenly strong and clear. He felt the thin tendrils of fear slip away, replaced by an odd surge of adrenaline. The wild-eyed man paused, taken aback. There was a fraction of a second where silence swept over the room, a collective breath held. Then the corners began to shift again, the chaos pushing back. Who do you think you are? The man sneered, anger twisting his features into something almost unrecognizable. You've no idea what you're talking about. I may not know everything, Harold replied, stepping closer, but I know we can't abandon each other. You were once like her too, weren't you? You didn't always have to fight like this. His words hung in the air, tangible, testing ground for what was to come next. There was a flicker of recognition in the man's eyes, vulnerability betraying the rage that had previously consumed him, but just as hope ignited, a new voice cut through the rising tension, a harsh, mocking laugh echoing from the darkened corner. You think you can save her? Look around. We're all drowning here. A chill swept through Harold. That voice, laced with bitterness and despair, twisted in his gut. Enough, Vince intervened, stepping in front of Harold with a newfound ferocity. The room grew quieter, all eyes now shifting to him. What you've forgotten is that within this storm is where you find change. We're all lost in our own way, and none of us is beyond redemption. The atmosphere thickened, the tension reaching a boiling point. Would the man let her go? Would he unleash the burden he carried onto Harold, or would this open a door for understanding? And in that electric moment, when it felt like everything balanced on a knife's edge, a distant siren began to wail outside, cutting through the thick silence, heralding not just danger but potential change. Harold was standing at the edge, one single decision away from unraveling the truth hidden in the shadows of that desperate place. Would courage emerge from the wreckage, or was he destined to be pulled under? What would happen next? A sudden stillness fell over the room. The woman's fearful eyes darted between Harold and her captor, the wild man's grip tightening around her arm. The unexpected siren faded into the background as all ears remained glued to the showdown in the center of the shelter. Let her go. Harold pressed again, his voice firm, shaking off any remnants of doubt. He took a step closer, focusing on the flicker of humanity that had sparked in the man's eyes moments ago. His pulse raced as adrenaline surged through him. Why do you care? The man shot back, his anger bared to the world. You think you can just waltz in here and play hero? You don't know what it's like, you don't know anything. Harold's heart pounded harder, echoes of doubt creeping in. But, somewhere deep inside him, a fierce conviction took root. I know what it's like to feel lost. To think there's no way out. I've been there myself. The man faltered, confusion flashing across his face, allowing the woman to sidestep slightly. She seized the opportunity, her hands trembling as she tried to pull away. Please, she whispered, eyes locked on the madman. Shut up. He shouted, shaking her violently. Murmurs swept through the crowd, a sickening mix of sympathy and dread. It was a snowy, winding path ahead, and they were all standing at the precipice. Vince's calm voice cut through the noise again. This isn't just about you, he urged, stepping forward, each word a lifeline pitched into turbulent waters. It's about all of us in this room. We face demons every day. The wild man's grip slackened a fraction, his eyes flashing with the rawest anger and hurt. You don't get it. You're just gonna get burned. Why are you doing this? Because we're all capable of change. We've all been broken. Harold didn't waver, his gaze fierce, unyielding. You once wanted to be more than what you are now. I can feel it. Seconds turned into an eternity as the man wrestled with his emotions, a tempest playing out on his face. But just when hope reached a boiling point, the mocking voice from the shadows snapped the fragile tension again, sending ice into Harold's veins. You think this illusion of unity is going to save your hide? We're on the edge. With a venomous laugh, it echoed against the walls of the shelter, darkening the air. Harold's heart sank, knowing that the chaos outside reflected the turmoil within. Who is protecting the weak when we're all about to be crushed? The specter in the shadows challenged, eyes glinting like shards of glass. The crowd, feeling the weight of every accusation, shifted uneasily. They were all too aware of their struggle. Step back. Vince shouted, a wall of authority rising behind him. The wild man recoiled slightly but remained, wavering on the precipice of surrender. The woman inched closer to Harold. Now or never, he thought. Something primal swelled in him. He reached forward, paralyzing fear mingling with an emerging hope. You can let this go. Whatever weighs you down can't be lifted with pain. We can't redevelop our battles alone. Shut up. You think words can fix this? The man snarled, desperation boiling. Just as he lunged again, a shout rang out. Stop! The cry shattered the air like glass. A newcomer huddled in the back, her face pale and streaked with tears. You don't have to fight. The room held its breath, shock rippling through the crowd. Harold's heart raced. What about this unexpected plea would shift hearts again? Was this a rallying cry for change or a final nail in the coffin? Why should we listen to you? The man barked, still agitated, but now uncertainty edged into his fury. Because she hesitated, catching breath. Sometimes, the hardest battles are fought inside of us. And if we let go, maybe we'll find what we've lost, maybe we'll find each other. What could they possibly do with such profound honesty? As emotion wrapped like a noose around everyone in the shelter, hope fluttered dangerously close to despair. Would this plea ignite a spark of unity or thrust them deeper into chaos? Outside, the sirens echoed once more, loud and insistent. Matching the percussion of clamoring hearts. And amid the brewing storm, a shocking revelation awaited everyone as they stood on the knife's edge. All at once, the air shifted. That one voice, shaking and raw, had scattered the darkness around the shelter like the first rays of dawn. Harold felt it deep within him, a flicker of hope igniting like dry kindling. The tension hung like a heavy curtain, unsure if it would be drawn back to reveal light or remain in shadow. Listen to her, Vince urged, his voice steady but filled with conviction. We don't have to go down this road. We can choose to find connection instead. The wild-eyed man, wearied by chaos, hesitated, his grip loosening on the woman. Harold stepped forward, heart racing, yet feeling an unexpected calm wash over him. What do you stand to gain from all this fighting? He asked, searching the man's eyes for a flicker of understanding. Can't we start fresh? Let this moment be our rebirth instead of our downfall. In that charged stillness, the wild man faltered, a storm of emotions crashing within him. From anger to pain, to the tiniest hint of vulnerability, it all danced across his face. His loud breath echoed, a silent plea begging for a lifeline. You don't know what it's like, he uttered, voice softer now, trembling under the weight of everyone's gaze, but Harold understood all too well. He felt the threads of their shared struggles binding them together. You're right, I don't, he replied, sincerity in every syllable. But I'm here with you. We don't have to weather this alone. The moment hung suspended, as if the world outside had quit spinning. Even the sirens receded into unheard whispers, making way for tentative hope to bloom. Slowly, the wild man released his hold on the woman, looking at Harold as if weighing him against every moment he had ever lived. I don't trust easy, he grunted, his voice gruff but showing cracks in the armor he'd worn for so long. What makes you different? Because I'm willing to walk alongside you, not just give you a handout, Harold replied. Genuine change takes hard work, something meaningful. A battle we can all face together. A ripple of acknowledgement passed through those gathered. It wasn't just Harold's words that resonated, it was the dawning realization that everyone held a piece of this chaotic puzzle. Suddenly, voices joined in, chiming in support, murmurs swirling around like a tempest growing weaker in intensity, overtaken by solidarity. I felt lost, wasted, the woman who had first called for help said, stepping forward. But there's something sacred in honesty. We've just been hiding behind walls of hurt. The tension cracked open further, vulnerability was contagious, spreading like warmth on a cold day. One by one, the crowd began sharing snippets of their battles, voices blending into a cacophony of lives lived in the shadows. Harold felt his heart swell. He wasn't just an outsider anymore, he belonged here in this tangled space of pain and promise. Let us break down these barriers, brick by brick, he called out, sensing a synergy building. Let us build something better together. A path toward healing. The wild man still stood immobilized, conflict whirling through him, a reflection of the struggle within those surrounding him. And where does that leave me? He finally spoke, his eyes swimming with fear and uncertainty. Right here, right now, Vince replied, empathy radiating from his presence. You get to choose. You can let the past consume you, or you can share your story to help build this bridge. Exhaling deeply, the wild man's defenses began to lower. I've buried so much. I don't know if I can face it. Then we'll face it together, Harold said, stepping into that space. The warmth of acceptance enveloped them like a cocoon. And as the last shadows receded, Harold felt the tightness across his chest, ease, familiarity manifesting in shared experience. Join us, Harold beckoned, sincerity pouring forth. Let us start here. No more fighting. Only understanding. As the crowd held its breath, it was not Harold's weight lifted, it was that of the wild man. With a deep breath, he staggered forward, raw and vulnerable, and whispered, I want to believe, I want to choose hope. A collective sigh released, carving a way for the unspoken promise of healing. Silence reigned, but it was a different kind of silence, one filled with possibility, a shared longing for change echoing through the air. With hands trembling but voices strong, everyone intermingled their fears with the courage to hope. Out on the streets, the sirens faded into the distance, leaving a vibrant glow of fresh beginnings behind. That night, Harold realized something monumental. It wasn't about saving anyone, but learning how to stand alongside them. As the shelter's light streamed outward, reaching into the night, they illuminated a path, a tangible thread of compassion entwined in raw truths, a shared journey transforming both heroes and survivors. And something shifted forever. As the connection solidified among them, Harold took a small step back, finally knowing he was no longer alone in his own struggle. The atmosphere shimmered with cautious optimism, urging them all forward. Together, they would shine, and as dawn broke outside, a new chapter awaited, promising the warmth of connection and the unyielding strength of hope born in shadows. The kind of story that tethered them to each other, where pain transformed into purpose, and pulses raced with both fear and love. This was not the end, but truly the beginning, drawing them out of darkness, united in their strength. As they stepped into the world, a powerful resolve solidified among them. Would you dare to join them on this journey toward healing and understanding? You need to subscribe now. Smash that like button to show your support, because this is the moment we can change lives together. Flood the comments section with your theories about what happens next, and don't wait even one more second to share this story with at least 5 friends who need this message of hope.